My guest today is Michael Crump. How are you, Michael?
Doing very well. How are you, David?
I'm doing great. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you wore the same shirt as last time.
Exactly. You know, I decided that I was just going to wear the same shirt, even the same name badge.
Me too.
This time. So,
I want to talk to you about your recently published ebook. What is it called?
Yes. Okay. So I have an ebook that Telleric sponsored that is called 10 Laps Around Silverlight 5.
Okay. And Silverlight 5 recently came out. When was it released?
Yeah. So Silverlight 5, it basically just came out. And when Silverlight 5 came out, everybody was, they were excited about the betas, and they were excited about some of the other pieces that
they were excited that it's not dead yet.
Yes, they were excited that it wasn't dead
Which
yet.
was the rumor for a while.
Exactly. So Silverlight 5, it came out in December. Thankfully, our controls, they were working for it just a few days before Christmas.
And you're a Silverlight MVP, aren't you?
Exactly, I'm a
so
Silverlight
You're really
MVP.
well invested in this technology.
Yes, I'm very well invested in it, and I see the value that it has to offer. And yeah, it is not dead in any way, shape, or form. But going back to your original question, it was 10 laps around Silverlight 5. And basically what I did was I looked at all of the new features of Silverlight. And I decided to kind of just break them down as kind of like my cube buddy that was sitting beside me and just go through building some sample projects, showing off all of these new features, and really just kind of getting everybody up to speed. And so, the folks at Telleric, they talked to me and they were so supportive, of me doing this. And then at the end of the day, I wanted to be able to give this book away for free. Now, this was Telleric's time, of me writing this book and stuff. So we were able, at the end of it, it's sponsored by Telleric, but that's pretty much it. It's not one of those books that has a bunch of other things in it. It goes straight to the point.
Okay.
And gets you going.
Well, yeah. Let's not cover everything that's in Silverlight 5,
Sure.
but let's talk about the most important things. Let's say I'm a Silverlight 4 developer, which, by the way, I'm not. I'm really not a Silverlight developer at all.
Sure.
But what are the important things that are new in 5 that are awesome?
Yeah. So if I was a Silverlight 4 guy, one of the first biggest things that I would notice would be SAML binding debugging.
Okay.
So in the past, and a lot of the Silverlight 4 guys, they have had all of the frustrations with binding expressions. So you may have a text block, and maybe you're setting a text to some sort of binding statement. And in the past, if data didn't appear, maybe it's going to appear a customer's name, first or last name, and nothing appears. Well, you had to do a lot of other kind of workarounds, use different types of type converters and things like that. Well, now you don't have to do that anymore. You can actually just put a breakpoint on that line of XAML. So anywhere inside of in Silverlight 5, anywhere inside of your window that you're working in, if it has the word binding, you can actually put a breakpoint. And when you run that application in debug mode, then it will break on that line.
And you can examine the state of the data as it's being bound.
Exactly, yeah, and you can examine that. Now, of course, as I said before, it's only on lines that have a binding with it. But one of the cool things about the Silverlight 5 binding is that binding debugging is that if you have Silverlight 4 installed, and say maybe your customers, they're not ready to move to Silverlight 5, but if you have Silverlight 5 installed on that same box, you can still use that same functionality in your Silverlight 4 applications.
Oh, nice. So it's not tied to the version of Silverlight. It's tied more to the tooling and the IDE.
Yes, exactly. So you can fully be able to debug your binding statements in Silverlight 4. That's a really cool feature. It's something that I've been wanting. I was so excited at the Silverlight Firestarter when Scott Guthrie had announced that. So really great stuff. So another thing that I think is really beneficial is the new XNA 3D APIs that's available. So my past, I've worked a lot in the healthcare space. So there's a lot of things that maybe radiologist or somebody they needed, maybe they wanted to be able to display, I don't know, a broken bone or something.
Sure.
So with the 3D API, you can do pretty much your imagination. anything in your imagination, you're able to build that. And in Scott Guthrie's Firestarter sample project, you could kind of not peel away the skin of this model.
I saw that it was a virtual Scott Guthrie.
Yes, it was the virtual Scott Guthrie. Yeah, he had his shirt off and everything.
He took his red shirt off.
Exactly, he took his red shirt off in that, and they even drilled in, and they were able to see his heart beating and things, and that's really cool technology. That's something that I believe a lot of people are going to start finding more uses for 3D.
So this is you mentioned this is the XNA
Yes.
library. So the XNA, when I think XNA, I think of games. Is that the same XNA?
And I'm the same way. It's basically an XNA API. So
Okay.
you add a couple of DLLs to your project. Once you add those in, you still have to add in the XNA namespace, but then you have access to a couple of other things. And it's not just the 3D stuff. So low latency sound is another feature that uses some of the XNA, some of the stuff that's in the XNA.
So this was technology that was built to support video games, and now it's being used. Now it can be used
Yeah.
inside for Silverlight
Yeah,
applications,
exactly.
for your line of business apps.
Yeah, it can be used for that sort of thing.
Interesting.
And for like the low latency sound, people use that a lot in games, maybe for like spaceships that
Right.
needed to make some sort of whirling sound. And in the past, people maybe chained a bunch of media elements all together to kind of make these sounds. And now they don't have to do that. They can do things like change the pitch, frequency, durations, all of these sort of things. It's natively kind of built in, and we're able to do that. So that's one of the other things that I think is really important for Silverlight 4 guys coming to Silverlight 5 to be able to see that a lot of that stuff exists. But the other thing in Silverlight 5 is all of the improvements in text. So I've started to kind of become into this, font guy where, I really enjoy, looking at different, fonts, the font styles.
You become a font geek.
Exactly, a font geek. Yeah. I can't use some of the default fonts that that everybody that everybody uses. I like looking at those. So a lot of text improvements have happened in Silverlight 5, but the one that I really want to mention is multi-column text. So one of the things about multi-column text is you just kind of think of like maybe a newspaper article where you have the article going straight down. Maybe you have like an image in the middle, and then maybe have text kind of wrapping around it. Well, in Silverlight 5, you can do a lot of those things very, very easily.
Silverlight just takes care of the flowing
Yeah.
from one column to the other and
Yes.
wrapping around the picture automatically.
Exactly. So basically, you set up different types of overflows, and it will overflow from one rich text marks to another one. So that's another really cool functionality that's built in Silverlight 5. I believe a lot of developers will enjoy checking that out. So another thing to bring up that I think would kind of be fun is there is now a click count property in Silverlight 5. So if you have maybe a mouse left button down and you have your sender and event args, well, you can now use maybe something like an e.dot click count. So when I first saw this, and so you can count how many clicks the user has made. So
Okay.
I was thinking
Clicks
maybe-
total or clicks like really fast? Like a double click.
The total number of clicks. So every time that they start clicking, it will count. Now if they hold up and just wait, for a couple of seconds,
that resets?
It resets.
Oh, okay.
So what I
So
was
this
thinking,
is instead of a double click, you have a triple click.
yeah, exactly. So what's really cool about this is that maybe you could put in your code e.dot click count equals 42.
So if you're able to click real fast 42 times, then something really special happens.
Exactly. Maybe pop up this like super secret admin section.
Or maybe that's the only way to exit the application. That would be cruel.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's another thing I think would be pretty cool. But there's all kinds of operating system enhancements. One of the ones that I think is important is multiple windows. So in the past, you have a Silverlight application. Maybe you would spawn a window, but that window still exists inside of your Silverlight application. application.
Okay.
So you can kind of picture you have a Silverlight out, and you have your window that you've popped up, and you're dragging it, and it only will drag inside of that window.
Mm.
Well, now in Silverlight 5, it supports, as I said, multiple windows. You can create that window, and let's just say, you have this super awesome developer rig, you have, a monitor here, and another monitor. You could drag that window outside of that Silverlight application.
Oh, okay.
So, and I can see this a lot for different types of dashboards.
Mm.
So you could create, maybe one window over here, that's going to have some sort of stock data, another window, and then another window. So there's a lot of improvement with operating systems, but I think that's one that most developers will be able to incorporate into their applications.
Okay. And now there's the ability to call directly into the Windows operating system.
Yes.
It didn't exist before, right?
Exactly. Yeah. P-Invoke. So P-Invoke is also brand new. So
It's odd that it took 5 versions to get P-Invoke into this language.
Yeah. It took a while, and a lot of people have asked me, "What about Mac?" No, it doesn't support Mac, of course. But I created one demo using P-Invoke just kind of for fun. And every time we've all maybe spin up maybe a new console out, just playing around. We have to make the computer beep. So using the built-in speakers at the computer. So that was one of the first things that I was able to do. And no, I didn't know how to automatically get the computer to beep. That code snippet to get all that to work is something I had to look up. But more importantly, it was being able to do it. And you can also, of course, that you have access to P-Invoke, you can do things like maybe pop up the Windows Run command,
Okay.
Windows R, and you can do things like that. And in some of the demos that I've seen, people were actually using P-Invoke to detect whether or not a USB drive is inserted into the machine.
Interesting.
And if the USB drive is inserted into the machine, copy some data off of it, do whatever you need to do with that data, and you could write back and kind of do pretty much anything that you wanted to do as long as your permissions and everything was set.
Right. So Silverlight's starting to get out of that sandbox that it originally started in.
Yeah, exactly. You would have to have a few other things to write back, but so there's other things as well. There's a default file save dialog, so file name. So if you pop open save dialog in the past, you couldn't actually give it a default name. A lot of developers, and I know in Silverlight 4, because I did this in one of my own applications, it was kind of annoyed because, different workers, they wanted a default file name, already put in there. Of course, you got to have like the date in your file name,
right,
or something like that. They wanted all of that information processed in, and especially when I was working in medical, the date format had to be in this crazy long string, and you wanted to be able to automatically put that in.
I remember working on the limitation of other languages or other platforms, and what I had to do was save it with a file name that they liked, and then ask them to resave it. But then if they changed it, then I had this orphan file out there that nobody really wanted anymore.
Yeah, and it may be one of those files that nobody had never picked up, never
right,
processed, or anything like that. So that's cool. One of the last things that I think is really important in Silverlight 5 is the pivot viewer. So imagine large amounts of data and wanting to be able to visualize that data. And I know you have your awesome data visualization talks.
Have you heard that talk?
I think I heard parts of it at DevLink last year, because I believe at DevLink you were, it was one of those, you already had like a couple of your own sessions, but you were filling in for somebody.
That might have been Code Stock.
I think it was Code Stock, Michael Mills'
Right.
session. Yes. I remember that, and I believe I was able to peek in for a little while and check that out. So yeah, I know you're already this data visualization guy, but the pivot viewer, the way that you're able to display and process data, and get people to be able just to drill down on those certain levels, and they have a couple of samples using Netflix and things like that of just different ways to visualize data.
Okay, yeah, so this is just built into the framework, and it makes Silverlight kind of a BI tool.
Exactly.
Right out of the box.
Exactly, right out of the box.
Nice. So all the stuff is in your ebook. Where can people find your ebook?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different locations that you can get that from. The first thing that you can go to silverlightshow.com.
Okay.
And if you go to silverlightshow.com, it's usually up at the top, but if you just do a search for 10 laps around Silverlight 5, you can pretty much find it, pretty easy. I also have a link to it on my blog as well.
And your blog is?
michaelcrump.net. Yeah, so you can go there, you can grab it from there. We'll probably be putting it in a couple of other locations that everybody can grab, they can download. It comes with docx to PDF to Mobi format to a couple of other formats. So pretty much any device that you're using, you'll be able to get on there and you'll be able to see exactly what we were talking about today.
Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. I just finished discussing technology with my friend David Giard.